This podcast discusses a non-stop, thrilling adventure fantasy series set in the brutal and competitive world of a military college for dragon riders, which includes potential spoilers for all published material. This episode includes elements regarding war, injury, perilous situations, violence, death, and graphic language. Listeners who may be sensitive to these elements, cross the parapet at your own risk and prepare to enter the Wingreaders. Welcome to the Wingreaders, where we deep dive into the Empyrean series, chapter by chapter, theorize and overanalyze. I'm Abby.
I'm John.
And I'm Cassie.
And today we are covering Fourth Wing Chapter 2. Friendly reminder that all published material is fair game, so listen at your own risk and consider this your spoiler warning. We are going to send it over to our resident scribe, John, to break down the epigraph of this chapter.
Today's epigraph is another Navarian text that will be somewhat crucial to understanding the perils that our young heroiness has now faced and will continue to face in the Writer's Quadrant. We have Major Offendra's Guide to the Writer's Quadrant, unauthorized edition, which we're going to have a special comment on in a second. But the text here is, there is a misconception that it's kill or be killed in the Writer's Quadrant. Writers, as a whole, aren't out to assassinate other cadets, unless there's a shortage of dragons that year, or a cadet is a liability to their wing. Then things may get interesting. More than anything, what I love about this is that this is actually one of the few texts that are coming out of Navarre right now that are technically unauthorized, meaning that it was not something that the writers or the scribes quadrant recognized and asked for and wanted. Mm-hmm. This is a text that's kind of just free-floating out there outside of the scribes quadrant, much like we have Lieutenant Asher Daxton's Guide to Excelling in the Scribes Quadrant, which we're going to get to another day. And so,
who could that be?
I love that this is the unauthorized edition, and I suspect that the authorized edition that was intended to be the official how to get through the Writer's Quadrant is actually going to be Melgren's Memoirs as a Cadet. There's another text that we come across later, and it's Melgren's Memoirs as a Cadet, and it's basically the guide to the Writer's Quadrant, but from Melgren's perspective, and very amped up and clearly written by a scribe and signed off by him. The ghostwriter was definitely in the Scribes Quadrant.
I like in this epigraph that it mentions that writers as a whole aren't out to assassinate other candidates unless there's a shortage of dragons that year. And then we learn in a little bit that the number of dragons willing to bond each year has been going down and down and down. Yeah. And I'm like, so they are out to assassinate other cadets because there is a dragon shortage. And I don't know if this is confirmed, it might be confirmed. Is that to do with the internal strife between the dragons of the Venin situation? Is that why there are fewer and fewer willing to bond?
I think so.
So, Taryn doesn't give us a very definitive answer, but he does admit that part of the reason fewer and fewer dragons have been bonding has been the refusal to recognize the true situation outside of their borders.
Got it.
That there's a growing form of growing faction of dragons who agree that like something needs to be done, but nothing is being done, so they're just quietly withholding themselves from the agreement with humans.
So like a protest non-vote in an election where they're not doing anything. And at least we have like Taryn, who is in the camp of, hey, we need to do something about this, but I'm going to make a change from within.
It's kind of like a non-vote.
Well, and I think a bunch of them did want that, but weren't willing to bond until the humans agreed.
Fair.
Yeah, they're kind of like withholding arms.
Sure. But are they making that clear? Like, are they saying, hey, dragons that are bonded, tell your riders that this is the case to at least the higher ups? Or are they just figure it out?
Who the heck knows? Those higher ups don't tell us anything.
Cassie, do we have any new Gaelic words in this chapter?
I didn't find any that I made note of in this one. I think they're all familiar at this point.
Okay. I know we get a lot of place names.
Yeah, I didn't look into place names specifically, and just based on how they're called, I think that they're just kind of standard fantasy made up names, or she took inspiration from something else I'm not familiar with.
Gotcha. All right. So, if there's nothing else to discuss, I'm going to send it over to Cassie and we're going to get into chapter 2.
Okay, chapter 2 is a lot shorter than chapter 1, and I also took less thorough notes. So this will go much more quickly than the first one. um,
I'm sure John and I will make it plenty long
yes,
by
please
jumping
do jump in
in.
because I know there are things that you guys are holding in your minds as you read that I've just completely forgotten. And I've basically started reading this book over from scratch. I'm like, oh, I kind of know what this is about, but I'm just not really thinking about all of the connections that are relevant in each sentence.
Sure.
Okay, so we jump right back in with Violet reminding herself that she's not going to die today.
Classic Violet.
And then the very next thing that she's thinking about is Zayden still staring at her. Which, does she know that he is, or is she just assuming? Is she just fantasizing, hoping, dreaming, etc.? And then we're reminded that 50% of her new alliances slash friendships
Yep.
have already ended. They're already
Already
dead.
be dead.
Just to increase her stakes going
Mhm.
across, obviously.
Yeah, I like how she is like, oh, that's why she said not to make friends. Okay. And this is going to be way ramped
Yeah,
up
because you made
and
one.
Iron Flame when she's like, I don't even want to know the first year's names because I cannot handle it.
Oh, that part is
Hmm.
so heartbreaking. In a really cute, teenagey way, Violet and Rhiannon are like, okay, but we're not gonna die. I'm gonna see you on the other side. We're gonna pinky promise, make a pact.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like not everyone who hopes not to die is gonna die like Dylan.
They hope.
Oh yeah. For now. We've got a few more books of these guys.
Well, yeah.
We'll see.
One nice thing is it is from Violet's perspective. So, I know that there are theories around that she will not live to see the end as as the fact that this is being recorded by Jacinia in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But more than likely she'll at least last until the last book. Like somewhere
Right, long
in
enough to get into the last book.
there.
We hope.
So we're pretty confident she's gonna survive at least as of
Mhm.
now.
So Rhiannon goes ahead. Violet has to give her name to the folks at the table or wherever, standing wherever.
And real quick,
To,
right before that, she sends up a silent prayer to
oh,
how do
to
we say that?
Zinal.
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 And that is our first mention of, besides the mention of the goddess Amari, that Rhiannon looks
Right,
like.
this is our second god mentioned.
Yep. This is our second god, but the first prayer.
The god of luck, because that is the only one who can help her now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because well, maybe her mom is sending this big old storm at them, which is conveniently cracking right as she says her name.
I know, I wrote that down too. I was like, foreshadowing. Yeah, Violet Sornegale, I answer as thunder cracks above me.
Oddly comforting. Yeah, and then she's like glancing at all of the names and thinking about Dylan's name and mentions about the scribes and their beloved statistics for casualties. And I just wanted to give a shout out to efficient data collection and scribes loving statistics and
I love statistics.
And the fact
Yes.
that they run all of these mortality numbers and track how many people die by each way of death.
Mm-hmm. It's important, John.
It is important.
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
there's some scribes that have some hyperfixations over there that are maybe taking things a little too far, but
I don't
what
know.
do
I
I
mean,
know
this
about that?
seems pretty necessary to me. I don't know what you're talking about. So then she has another little like, yes, I'm a soaring girl. Yes, that one. And then, and then it's go time.
Right before that, she mentions, and I just put a note in here, that Brennan was quote unquote was a brilliant
Oh
strategist,
yeah,
which I'm like, is he now? I wonder if he made some strategies
and if that will,
before he quote unquote died.
yeah. So then we get Jack Barlow again. We get his name now.
Motherfucking Jack
He
Barlow.
introduces himself to get
Motherfucking
his
Jack
name
Barlow.
written down, and now we know.
Cassie, say it. Cassie, say it. Motherfucking Jack Barlow.
Motherfucking Jack Barlow. It's his official title now.
I accept that it's his official title. Um, we'll see if I feel like saying it.
Maybe in the heat of the moment later.
And so he, begins his little tirade of taunts and threats throughout that basically lasts throughout this whole chapter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Taunting her that she's getting a slow start and that he's going to be important and you should remember his name. And
I wrote, what a
yeah,
douche.
Zayden reminds her that she's got to get started. So then, yeah, then it's go time. She starts walking. She's
Well, she doesn't just
reminding
start
herself.
walking. Jack, like, lunges forward and tries to push her off.
Right. Jack offers very kindly to help her. Um,
What a kind soul.
I know. He's like, you just needed like a little
So
motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I
generous.
get you.
I got you, babe.
Side note,
The
I'm
first step is
sorry.
the scariest.
Side note, have either of you watched Deepwater Horizon on HBO?
I have not.
No.
It's scary and it's terrifying and it's based on real life and it's actually really accurate. But at one point, one of the characters literally has to just like grab this girl who's freaking out and refuses to jump off of the like burning oil drill platform, and he just like hauls her and throws her off because it's the only way to save her life, but she refuses to do it, and so he has to like physically attack her and throw her to get her in the water. She thinks it later. Anyway. The flip side of this does happen generously
Yep.
sometimes.
Yes, yes.
So she's basically starting her walk, thinking about all the rain and how high up she is, and that she is not really prepared to be a writer or distract herself in the usual ways that people do. But there's one thing she does know, and that's facts, logic, and history. So,
Those are three things,
in order
Cassie.
to. I'm sorry. Look, did I say math was one of her strong suits? No.
Yo, call out. Saying math majors can't ride dragons. I can.
No, I just said that she. Anyway.
Really quick, sorry to keep jumping in and going back, Cassie, but when she's talking about her practice in the courtyard, she says, but with the wind, the rain, and the 200-foot drop, this is nothing like practice. And I wrote, maybe you should have practiced better. Like, you can't just
Maybe
assume
her
that
mom
it's
should
going
have,
to be
like,
perfect conditions.
yeah, she could have been like, Mom, can you, like, whip up a storm for me real quick to practice
Yeah.
in? Because,
Or
like,
just go out when it's raining. Like,
yeah.
come on, babe.
Think for a minute.
Who was
Practice
in
better.
charge of this? Like, you'd think that they maybe should have accounted for some of these things.
All right. The one thing, facts, logic, and history.
Yes. So in homage to her father and her scribe training, she starts reciting important geological facts to the reader.
When I first read this, I made a note on Goodreads, like when you're updating, your progress.
Yeah.
I wrote world building lore dump, but very mindful, very demure, because I actually thought that it was a really a really well done way of giving all this information because like
Yeah.
you got to give this
Yeah.
information. There has to be some type of lore dump when you're building a fantasy world like this. And so I kind of liked like okay, there's a reason that this is all being said. It's not like one character telling another character who already knows. Like,
Yeah.
so as you know, we live in
Right. It's
Navarre.
it's not in that
Like
weirdly shoehorned in unnecessary way. Like it's still a lot of information being dumped at once, but
exactly.
it's like it's diegetic's not the right word, but it like makes sense in context.
Yeah. I also like the early mention of there's nowhere as calming as the archives, which,
Yeah.
as we know, comes back in a huge way. That is her her grounding zone, her mind palace, for controlling her magic later on. So I just liked that early shout out there. We left off with Violet. Yes. Class is in session.
I was picking up on the history. So, like, the one thing that I want to call out from her little focus focus dump is the particular information that she gives us historically. And the first thing that we have to call out here is, according to the standard records, they've been at war with Poromil for 400 years. And that's a date that we need to just put a pin in and remember.
Yes.
Because when it comes to timelining later,
Hmm.
that's going to be important. I think that lines up with when they closed the border and rewrote history. It
Mm-hmm.
was one of the preceding
Yeah.
events of rewriting history.
Well, and I'm pretty sure it's mentioned later on that that's the farthest the texts go back in the archives.
Yeah, because that's why she's having so much
Yeah, the
trouble.
oldest one is 400 years
Yeah.
old.
Mm-hmm.
But she does give us geography first.
It gives us some geography.
She does give us Navarre, the 6 unique provinces, Tirandor, which is technically still one of their provinces and is the biggest one, but also is rebelling. And then that is also the one that borders the province of Kravla within Poromil. So that's important for multiple reasons, Tirandor is. And then she tells us about Signuson and Breivik.
Also,
Yeah.
I love, she gives us the trade agreement of Resin, and she's like, what I love is for 200 years they've been at war and also trading with each other, actively trading with each other.
Yeah.
The economy chugs on.
There is a mention that Peromial is known for unique crystalline gems capable of amplifying minor magics, which we learn later don't all Griffin Riders get one of
Yes. Yes.
Yes, they get it at graduation. It's given to us in an epigraph. Give me a second, I have them here.
these? Of course
Not
you
that
do.
set, though. Too many papers. But I put Poromil texts in their own category because the trustworthiness is somewhere very different than the trustworthiness of the Navarian text.
Absolutely.
Like when we read a Navarian text, we have to remember propaganda. And when we read a Poromish text, we have to remember true history. The Canon of the Flyer, Chapter 3. This gem given to you upon graduation from Clispane should always be worn close to the heart, but if you have not mastered your control, it will only amplify your downfall. It's given to us around the same time that we learn about the citrine of Poromiel or something like that, and it was worn by one of the first Griffin riders, and it was also capable
And that's
of...
what Violet has to retrieve, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's what they trade with one of the isles.
When they burn everything down on accident. And it's like broken or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, had to throw that in there.
I just love how even this early on we have some information that is going to come back.
Well, and then I have another call out because we also have to think about the forging of the daggers. Remember that it takes I can't even remember what the name of it was, but whatever they went Illuminary to intensify dragon fire to forge the steel from the dragon eggs. And so clearly Poromiel is also the source of these luminaries, and that's why Corden had one of them, is because it's probably the most recent one that's ever been made.
I know I'm not alone in this because I've seen multiple people talking about this online, but I totally thought a luminary was a person for the longest time, where it was like someone with a specific magic that was able to do that. So there was a lot of confusion for me when they finally retrieved the luminary.
Yeah,
can
that
see
I
that.
could see where that it makes sense.
I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah, we also, John, you were talking about the trade agreement, and we get our first mention of, I've said Athbine. I don't know if there's a different way of pronouncing that.
The audiobooks,
I've been saying Athene,
yes,
but
the audiobooks tend to favor Athbean, but
Okay.
they're as inconsistent as we are. I've heard Athbean in the audiobooks so many times.
or I could see like Athabin or like I'm sure I'm sure there are other ways to pronounce it that we're not even using. I don't think it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. As a reminder, we are a pronunciation inclusive podcast. We love inclusivity over here.
And just for that,
We love to include all of us in the shame of pronunciations.
Exactly.
so I will now be calling it the trade agreement of Risson.
Ressent.
Risson. Oh, I love that.
Okay, so she takes a break from um
Just a little
she
snooze.
takes a break from reviewing her geography and history notes to glance back and see what Jack is up to.
Hmm.
And he's just standing there.
Oh, we're getting there.
He's just standing there.
Hmm.
And so she starts walking again because she's like, whatever. And then she looks back again, and he is not just standing there anymore. He has turned back to the guy behind him, just nonchalant, and pushes him off the edge. Goodbye.
Motherfucking Jack Barlow.
Motherfucking Jack Barlow. Just like cold-blooded murder. And it seems like the only reason he does it is to scare Violet. He's like, you're fucking next.
Yeah.
He
Like,
says that, but he was gonna do that even if she wasn't looking, probably.
I don't know. Well, probably, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so motherfucking Jack Barlow.
Yeah, so motherfucking Jack Barlow is just cold-blooded murder. Let me just stand and wait for this. I mean, and if I were the next candidate, I would be like, I'm not going
I
until
don't
this
want to
guy
follow
starts
that
moving.
guy. Yeah, like I will be the holdup.
What is he
Yes.
doing?
So Jack is there. He's pushed this guy off. He sees Violet watching, and he's like, "You're next." And then she's just like, "Okay." Tyrandor encompasses the majority of the continent.
As she's like starting to like speed walk a little bit, which I just love. I just imagined her
Yeah,
talking
she-
faster too.
Yes, me too. That's what I was gonna say. She's like picks up the pace in her brain and in her feet.
And I love that she goes to the description even becomes very, because it's like made up of hostile mountainous terrain and bordered by the Emerald Sea and Arctile Ocean. And so,
Impenetrable.
yeah, like her
Yep.
brain goes to brutality
Yep.
almost immediately, but still is like facts, brutal facts, brutal facts.
Yep.
Yep.
And her left foot keeps slipping at the beginning of each step. We know that this is the boot that she traded with Rhiannon. So yes, if she would have kept her smooth sole shoes and if she would have let Rhiannon keep hers, they would have both fallen.
Because then
More than likely.
she does slip and then she does fall. She slips all the way to her knee with one leg hanging off the edge.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, is she gonna make it?
And then she looks down
Yeah, that's a mistake.
and remembers just how high off the ground she is. And she has to think about that for a while until she reminds herself she's not going to die today. And so she very carefully on that not so great knee pushes herself back up and resumes her quick but not too quick speed walking away from Jack.
I have a note here.
From the murderer.
Yes, from the murderer. I have a quick note. Does anybody just crawl? Because
that too. Like just go. Just
that would be, I mean,
lower your center of gravity.
it's 18 inches wide, so it's not like a tiny little
It's a
thing.
foot and a
There's
half.
enough room. And I'm like, my instinct whenever I'm very up high is to just start crouching down because I don't want to fall. And that would be, there's no cheating, according to Mira. So that would be, you might get made fun of a little bit. I can see that. But Miss Violet is always finding alternative ways to do things. And
Yeah.
I would be crawling.
Well, if Jack wasn't behind her about to start
It
running,
probably wouldn't be fast enough.
yeah,
Fair,
it's
fair,
how
fair,
slow
fair.
you move. But if you're like inching
So if
along,
motherfucking Jack Barlow isn't behind you,
yes.
could you just crawl?
So then he reminds her, "I'm coming for you."
I love this line.
Which one?
It's right after yours. So you've got the "I'm coming for you, Soren Gale. I hear from behind me." And then in the next paragraph,
Yeah.
best to get to the other side where the
Yes.
rest of the murderers wait.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, she goes, not that everyone in the quadrant is going to try to kill me, just the cadets who think I'll be a liability to the wing. Um, and also the ones who want revenge on her mom for whatever reason. And the ones who are going to be threatened by the fact that she bonds not one but two dragons and wants a dragon for themselves. And then later on, anyone who wants to cover up the conspiracy that she has figured out. So, yeah, there are more reasons than just being the weakest link.
Yes.
And every time I don't know if you guys remember this show. I barely remember it because I was quite young when it was on, but my parents watched it. It was a game show, and you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Are the weakest link. I love that! The weakest
I don't
link, yes!
So every time I read it, I'm like,
I don't think I ever
You are
watched
the
that
weakest
show,
link.
but I know the reference.
yeah, you might honestly know it from me, Cassie, because I say it all the time. Yes.
Yep. So she's got murderers ahead of her, murderer behind her. She notably appears to be out of facts at this point. She
I
no
doubt
longer-
it.
she does not give us any more little info dumps. She is
Yeah.
very focused on Jack being right behind her and explicitly after her now because he's already gotten the other guy. He continues to taunt her. Notably, he's not brave enough to just like start running ahead either. So she has time to get a lead here.
Mm-hmm.
He's also feeling the strain of the slippery, slippery stones in the rain,
Thanks, Mom.
even as he's talking a big game.
Mm-hmm. Like he is gaining on her, but not fast enough for
Yeah.
him to make a move in time.
Yes. And so he doesn't quite get close enough until right as she gets to the end, and then he starts running and still misses her.
I will say, we have another instance of tender at heart Jack Barlow who just wants to help.
Mm-hmm.
He says that the dragons are gonna kill you, so let me kill you. It'll be my pleasure to help you out.
It's far better
So-
to smash into rocks.
Yeah. Let me give you the
Yeah.
merciful death.
So he's doing her a favor. He does have a heart of gold there underneath
Yeah.
his venom exterior.
He's,
so just remember that.
Motherfucking Jack Barlow.
Motherfucking Jack
He's
Barlow.
lacking the knowledge that being burned to death is actually supposedly one of the least painful ways to go because your nerve endings just disintegrate immediately and you can no longer feel anything. So I'm not so sure that he is actually being super kind and merciful here.
You don't think so? I don't know. I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you on that one.
I was gonna say, there is an epigraph to support Cassie here. There's only one thing you can say about Dragonfire. It kills quick.
Yes. But he does say that they will eat her alive. I mean...
And only Andarna threatens that on a regular basis, so...
Fair. And she isn't even a known entity at this point. So,
True.
anyways, yes, he starts running. She starts running.
She gets just to the end. He lunges, misses grabbing her pack, but just barely touches her hip. She gets to the end where the other riders are. She immediately spins around, rips one of those daggers out of those sheets that Mira made for her, and has them right at his balls. He comes skidding to a halt.
Amazing. Amazing.
Knife to the balls.
Again, this girl knows anatomy.
Yep.
Yep. He's still talking a big game, but notably, he is no longer moving. He has frozen. He actually does care about his balls. And now she starts reciting some more codex at him.
Yep. Yep.
It is unlawful for a rider to cause another harm while in a quadrant formation or in the supervisory presence of a superior ranking cadet.
So I
And
have some beef here I want to call out.
Please do.
Outside of the little bit of the writer's codex that we get in epigraphs, and let me tell you, there's one particular section and chapter that she couldn't decide on the phrasing, and it gets messy halfway through it. But every time she calls out the codex, Violet never gets to finish her citations unless someone finishes it for her.
You're
Like, Violet
so
will start
right.
reciting the codex, and then she'll be like, it's always Article 3. Article 3 must be so fucking dense, and I want to read it, but it's always Article 3.
reasons you are or aren't allowed to kill people.
Article 3 section, and they're like, shut the fuck up.
And so I want to call out here that there's so much Dragon Riders Codex that we're given, and yet I don't
can't
think
put it
we
in
could
order.
line it all up in order, even if we tried our best.
And we will try our best, rest assured. That is our public service.
Absolutely. Shit, I got the Book of Brennan in better order than I do the Dragon Riders Codex.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm sure we'll get more.
Absolutely. I'm looking right now for my copy of the Dragon. It's the last page in the entire thing. Yeah, no. Article 5, Section 7. There are 3 different epigraphs from it. Not a single one of them has the same phrasing in it, so it's not like I can figure out overlap. And 2 of them repeat the same information in different phrasing, so it's like, whoa, we really wanted to emphasize this.
Gotcha. Yeah. Or she's like slightly misquoting. I don't know. Anyhow, she's quoting the book at him, and the writer who's supposed to be collecting everyone's names is just sitting there like silently begging them to hurry up because this is going to take all day. She's got so many other writers' names to write down or not write down because they fell off, that finally Violet says her name, and before anyone can say anything, she's like, yes, I'm that Sorengale.
And she says, not
Not
surprised with that
surprised.
maneuver. Which I love. She says, it might be the nicest compliment I've ever been given.
Aww.
And I do want to point out that this is the beginning of Violet loving compliments about her ruthlessness and about her abilities fighting.
Because it's a direct contrast to all the doubt that she's been receiving through the whole way.
Absolutely.
And must still feel herself. And, like, there's actually a point where she's deciding, do I want to stay in the... Like, it's its own chapter, we'll get to it. But the whole moment where Zayden's like, oh, so you're trying to decide whether you should run away to the Scribes Quadrant or stay with the Dragon Riders because a friend died. And he gets all douchey on her. Sorry.
Jack has to give his name as well. He's not having such a good time threatening Violet anymore, but he is still feeling very murderous and malicious towards her. Another rider jumps in to back up Violet. She has you by the actual balls here in more ways than one. And
I love it.
Reiterates that when they're
At formation.
or all of these other situations, that he's not allowed to kill her. He's got to do it in the sparring ring or on his own time. And boy, does Jack take that to heart.
He does. He does his best. He makes it a full-on hobby.
And then he reminds him very
and I love the
carefully
technicality.
he is not a cadet yet because he hasn't made it off the parapet until Violet left him. And then she decides, okay, she is going to let him. And so Jack is like, well, what if I just kill her now? They're like, well, then we'll just have the dragons kill you, like you were threatening about earlier.
Yep. And I like the
We don't
quote
wait
here.
for trials.
Yes, we don't wait for trials around here. We just execute. And that reminds me again of, I want to call it the bedroom scene, even though that makes it sound like it's the sexual bedroom scene and not like the murder bedroom scene. But when Violet has a close encounter of death in her room,
Of the
first of all,
violence kind.
yes. Xanon murders everybody in there, obviously.
Right.
And then when she comes forward with like, hey, no, this other wing leader. It was the wing leader, right? Or was it a squad
Yes.
leader? So, I don't remember. We'll get to it when we get to it. That whoever it was that was involved.
Is it like
Um,
Amber or something like that?
yeah, yeah, and she gets executed just by them discussing it because
Hmm.
you broke the rules.
Well, she did also have Tarn like mental image.
That's yes, that's fair. But that I don't. That's not a trial. I wouldn't say.
No, but I'm just saying evidence was provided.
Yes, yes.
So they both get off the parapet. Jack doesn't really promise to follow the rules, but like doesn't say that he won't. But he does promise that Sorengale,
The most iconic quote of the chapter, because we're going to see it referenced numerous times.
you're dead, Sorengale, and I'm going to be the one to kill you. Except for later when I might save you, but only so I can kill you again in the future.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
No, that was, I bet you more than anything. Like, think about it here. If she fell to her death, he technically wasn't the one that killed her. He was the one that just, like,
Let it happen.
fine. Yeah,
Yep.
let someone else kill her, and he wants the kill. So he has to save her so he can get the kill himself.
Right.
And that is the end of chapter 2. So any thoughts before we end this episode? It was a quick one.
It was a quick
But
one.
I do want to point out that Rebecca's tension writing I find to be masterful. I every time that there is something life or death, something scary, like I find myself reading it so quickly. My heart is racing. Like I just get so sucked in, and I just love the tension writing. I think she does a great job.
I think that this is actually maybe one of, I don't know about better examples, but it's a pretty good one. A lot of her, a lot of all three books, she has really long multi-clause sentences, which I didn't really notice her mind until we got to Onyx Storm. This chapter has much more quick, short, to the point sentences that help that pacing and that tension actually move along, so that when she does give some description, it doesn't feel like it's bogging everything down. So, good job, chapter 2.
All right, so that'll do it for us today. And until next week, goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye!
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Wingreaders. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at The Wingreaders, or you can send us an email at thewingreaders@gmail.com. It would mean the world for us for you to subscribe and rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. The next episode is up now, and starting next week, there will be a new episode coming to you every Tuesday. Until then, we'll see you in Chapter 3.